For a good few minutes in yesterday's World Junior pre-tournament action, I was kind of panicking. And I thought for a brief moment in time that we would be having ourselves the Kirby Dach situation all over again. Except this time, of course, Dach is not at the World Juniors, he's too old to do that. We might have had it with another guy who is also a top caliber prospect. Let's go over to Team Canada and talk about their pre-tournament game against the Team Finland junior squad and talk about Captain Shane Wright. Now, Wright is in a pretty interesting spot because, as we had noted, he's in a very, let's say, carefully constructed plan that the Seattle Kraken have devised for him in his first year, wherein he made the Seattle Kraken to begin with, he played a few games, and then he got sat for a boatload of time in order for him to get sent down to the AHL on a conditioning loan. This completely breaks the mold as to how normal OHL to NHL prospects are developed, especially at 18 years old. And Wright, while in the Coachella Valley Firebird system, had 4 goals in 5 games played. Very good showcase for a guy who was only 18, and for the most part, he looked pretty good, getting his confidence back and actually going out there contributing offensively. Then he came back to Seattle after that conditioning stint was over, and in his first game against Montreal, he had scored his first NHL goal too. Very, very fitting that it comes against the Canadiens, but either way, in this stint after coming back from the Coachella Valley Firebirds, he only played a few games. His total games played amount this season is at 8, which means that he's got 2 more games to play if the Seattle Kraken are going to burn off the first year of that entry-level contract. Now, right at this moment, he is not playing NHL games. He is at World Junior Camp. He is playing for Team Canada, and he's in the pre-tournament. He's likely going to be playing for the rest of the tournament once that starts out on Monday. But for Shane Wright, after this tournament is over, there actually is an opportunity for the Kingston Frontenacs, the team in the OHL that holds his rights, to trade him away to some other OHL team. This could be an opportunity for the Kraken to send him back down to the OHL and have him actually develop in a system away from Kingston, where they relied on him to do literally everything. If Shane Wright gets sent over to an OHL team that's a little bit better and a little bit more well-rounded than Kingston, he might have an opportunity to develop things much beyond what he would be able to if he was still with the Frontenacs, and that would be a pretty good chance for him to go back down to the OHL, actually develop, contrary to what we were all saying as to whether or not he should be getting sent down in the first place, and this would provide the Kraken with an opportunity to not burn off the first year of his ELC, but we'll see whether or not this indeed does happen. If sometime down the line, Wright ends up playing his 10th NHL game this season, and they burn off the first year of that contract to begin with, then okay, we'll see what happens. But for now, the guy is at Team Canada. And yesterday against Team Finland in the pre-tournament game, we had ourselves a pretty big scare. Here's a tweet from Stephen Ellis going over what happened in this hockey game. Shane Wright headed to the Canadian dressing room after blocking a shot with his foot. Looked to be in a ton of pain. This tweet had 60,000 views because, like myself, people saw this and they started to freak the F out. Oh no! Team Canada's captain is down. He is out of the count and he's left the game. This is Kirby Dach all over again. Shane Wright is not going to be able to play the remainder of the tournament. He is not going to come back to Seattle, and he's not going to play that 10th game on the first year of his entry-level contract because he's not going to be able to play at all, period. Now, just to keep everything transparent here, Wright did return to the game, and in fact, he scored a goal. Or at least, he thought he did. It was actually Brandt Clark's goal. But Wright came out of the contest with 2 assists on the process, so good on him for actually getting on the board. But I want to stress just how frightening it was having him get taken out of the game in the way that he had been. Because this happened a few years ago, and we had talked about this a few times in passing, but former Chicago Blackhawk and current Montreal Canadien Kirby Dach went through pretty much the same thing, and it was way worse. You'll note that Kirby Dach had a pretty okay rookie season in the NHL in 2019-20 as an 18-year-old, 23 points, 64 games played. He had 6 points in 9 games in the bubble, so that was really good for him. But the season after that, he only played 18 NHL games, and the reason his games played count was so low was because the guy missed out on a good 3/4 of the year. At the World Juniors at the beginning of the year, he was Team Canada's captain, just like Shane Wright, and I believe it was a play in the neutral zone where he tried to make a hit, and he ended up really messing up his wrist in the process. He kind of caught the guy at a weird angle, and as a result, you saw him skate away with his hand on his wrist, and then he was announced out for the remainder of the tournament, and a good chunk of the NHL year too. Kirby Dach probably would have had a pretty alright year had he played the full season in the World Juniors and in the NHL, but he was limited to only 18 games and he had 10 points in those games, so that was a really good metric. It was just, he wasn't able to play. And I think it's a pretty fair opinion to have that a lot of Kirby Dach's stalling and his progression over the years could be attributed to his lack of playing time in that second year in the National Hockey League. Because he missed out on so much time, he had to come back at the end of the year when everybody was already primed and already playing, and he was just getting his feet under him after missing so much time, and it really was worst case scenario for this guy. So for Shane Wright, a lot of people, myself included, were really scared that we were going to see the second coming of this very same story play out once again. But luckily for all of us, Shane Wright did return, so that is very good news to see. Also, knock on wood, that he's able to stay healthy throughout the rest of the tournament, because just having the parallels with Wright and Dach, it makes it even more interesting when you acknowledge that when Wright was out of the lineup in that brief period of time, you actually had Colton Dach, Kirby Dach's younger brother, replacing Wright on that line with Othman and Bedard. So if we assume, okay, what if Shane Wright ended up being injured for the rest of the tournament? Again, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but just in case it did happen, having Colton Dach, Kirby Dach's younger brother, as the replacement is so poetic in a way that it's kind of creepy. But at the same time, of course, we're lucky that it did not happen that way for the rest of the game and the rest of the pre-tournament. But either way, Shane Wright at the World Juniors has been an absolute treat to watch. Of course, him and Bedard doing their thing. There was that really nice behind-the-net pass. If you play NHL video games, you know this play as the Pogues play, but pretty much Connor Bedard, with a burst of speed, ended up going behind the net and passing the puck around and behind his back to the backdoor post that he was just beside, where Shane Wright, the trailer, was able to pop it in right into the open cage. Very easy goal for him, just had to have a stick on the ice. And then, of course, Brendan Othman being on that line as well, the sniper, Shane Wright's former line mate with the Don Mills Flyers AAA team in the Greater Toronto Hockey League. But it's been pretty good watching everything so far. Team Canada is poised to being very strong in this year's tournament, so we'll see how far they're able to go. But talk to the comments either way all your thoughts about the Shane Wright plan, what happened at the World Juniors so far, the pre-tournament injury scare, and how this is so coincidentally linked to one Kirby Dach of the Montreal Canadiens. I thought for a second, hey, we're having Dach 2.0. This is going to happen right here because he just left the game. But very luckily, it is not going to happen that way. He is back. So, talk to the comments your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.